like what we're doing, please consider subscribing. It's totally free and you can unsubscribe at any time, and it really helps us out a lot. Thanks for watching. Hope you liked the video.
So you guys are
I'm Mark. He's Brian, Mark 2.0, and we welcome Michael Testa, casting director, Roswell, Cold Case, Convict 762, Bad Blood.
Convict 762.
Oh,
Wow,
yeah,
you really
I'm gonna
pulled
put
that
you
one
at
out of
it.
the air.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
man. You got a lot of good
I
stuff.
forgot
dude.
the name of that. They had a different name for it when it started.
Oh,
What
I'm
was
sure
that, by the
working
way?
title.
Oh
What was
God,
that?
I don't remember. God,
Oh, shit.
that was 20. What's 2022, 2023? It had to be at least maybe like 25 years ago. So I forget.
Yeah, I think it was. I really do. But you got a list a mile long as a casting director in Hollywood. You are the
Seriously.
man, Michael.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
you got a bunch of cool stuff under your belt there, dude.
I do.
Yeah.
I'm very, very happy and proud of some of the stuff that I've done. It's been a fun ride. This is not done. Still going.
No, not by any means. Tell us when you first realized that you wanted to be a casting director.
Well, it was never something that I really wanted to do. I never really knew anything about it. I just kind of fell into it.
I knew you were going to say that.
I mean, cast is one of those things that people always think that they think they know what it is, and they don't really. There's no like college courses for it. There's nothing like that at all. And I moved out to California from New Jersey. Tried to work in the entertainment industry, and just I think a month or two after I started, I moved here. I fell into an internship at a place called Stephen Cannell Productions. It was a big TV producer.
Oh yeah, I know the name
21
well.
Jump Street, Hunter, yeah. So all that stuff, and so then I was put on staff. About I think about 4 or 5, about 2 months after I started. And my first job was the assistant on Hunter for the last season of Hunter. So, and it's fun. I work a lot by instinct, and I do things that I enjoy and don't do anything less. And so I just continued because it's fun.
There's probably a lot more to casting too than people really understand.
Yeah,
You're not just pointing
yeah.
to this guy and that guy. Give us a breakdown, really, what people don't really realize.
Well, like my mother always says, she goes, "Why don't you get Brad Pitt for that role?" I'm like, "Oh, that's really easy. Yeah, I'm gonna go do that." It really is. It's taking a script, it's taking an idea, whether it be a TV show or a movie, and reading it and getting ideas about how to sort of make it even better, or elevate it from where it is with the actors. It's knowing actors, it's having relationships with actors, managers, agents, and knowing availabilities and tastes and whatnot, and you sort of all put it together. And people hire me for my taste in acting and actors, and so you just sort of go from there, and hopefully it sticks. And knock on glass covered wood. That's people apparently like my taste. So
how does money become a big factor in your choices?
Money in terms of actors' money, or money?
Yes, or big budgeting, film budgeting.
Well, it does become a factor, but it's
what would stop you from getting a big dollar guy from getting, even if you had the money, from saying no, I want somebody without recognition or something like that?
Yeah, it's also knowing what actors really care about the money, as opposed to some actors who don't want to just do good work. And I know my philosophy is, if you have a good script, you could get good actors and get names. If they like it, they'll do it. And a lot of the actors who are big already have money, so a lot of times they don't need money and they're looking for something to do. It's just really working the script and working the characters and working the actors to see who's going to fit. I mean, I did years and years ago, one of my favorite movies I think I ever cast was a movie called Everything Put Together, which the budget was $116,000, I think, at the time, and was in Sundance Dramatic Competition. It was a really, really great movie, and Megan Mullally did it, and it was going to be Lee Schreiber, and it was all for $75 a day. I mean, he got offered, I think, Scream 3, Scream 4, whatever Scream he did, like a week before, and so had to pull out like 2 days before we started shooting. But he's going to do it. He really liked it. It was a really, really good script and a really, really great director. I mean, Mark Foster, who most people know, he directed Quantum of Solace and World War Z and Finding Neverland. So it's, you have a good project, you have a good script, you have a good director. Actors want to play actors want to work on good stuff. So
Yeah.
Where do you start if you don't want a known actor? What do you do?
There's
just start looking at pictures first.
Do you guys live in LA?
No, Arizona.
Arizona. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, there's thousands upon thousands upon thousands of actors in LA, and there's thousands of even more across the country. So you just start there. It's going into my bank of knowledge of actors and knowing who's out there, my ideas. I like to, whenever I do a project, to meet new actors. So it's just getting to know new actors at the time, sort of keeping the supply, so to speak, in check and up to par. And so you just start looking and searching. I release a breakdown, so I'll get ideas from agents and managers.
How is all the new technology of today factored into your search?
Oh, tremendously. I mean, it really has changed the game. I mean, it really has. It's so immediate right now. It's so quick. Like I said, I could release a breakdown and get ideas from from Europe and tomorrow and the day and the next day. And that's,
I remember a long time ago, Tim Burton movie that had Johnny Depp do this dance in that Alice in Wonderland movie, and I heard it was some guy on YouTube, and I said, you know what, this is gonna be like this because there's so much cameras everywhere now. And I was just wondering, if you're looking around, you do that.
You just gotta keep right. You kind of keep aware of what's going on around you. Social media. That's a sort of bizarre relationship. I mean, you can't I never go out there searching for characters or for actors on those other kind of social media, whatnot. I do rely on my agents and managers because of the people who are more serious about acting. They're, to get an agent and manager. But it's also good. Sometimes it gives you inspiration, gives you ideas. It reminds you of some people that may be out there that may be able to do it. I watch a commercial. I see somebody that sort of interests me. Even today, I just saw somebody posted this like YouTube show. It was really, really, really funny. And I'm like, oh my God, I got to find out who those two girls are because they're really funny. That's
sure.
That's
what's beautiful to me, is that can get to you, someone who has some clout and can really do something for that person. You're like, that person just got raw talent.
Yeah, exactly. And then, it was brilliant. And now, once I get back to LA, in the first year, I'll probably try to track them down and find out, who they are and what's going on. And,
Can you imagine the thrill that they're going to have when you talk to them? I'd be like, what?
I don't know. Nowadays people, it's a sort of a double-edged sword because sometimes these, YouTubers and social media people, they make more money than they would.
That's a very good point.
Fascinating point. Yes.
And so they don't want to. They depending on what you do, obviously, depending upon the exposure, and also depending upon if they really want to act. A lot of people on social media these days, influencers don't want to act.
My kid watches guys play Minecraft and they have 25 million subscribers.
So it's a whole different conglomerate. I mean, I do think that is sort of contributing in a sense to sort of the nobody's sort of excited about projects anymore. It's very hard to sort of get people really, really excited. I think it's also has to do with why there's very few movie stars, sort of the hoopla is not there because the hoopla is more spread out all over the place. So
this must have impacted your life in many ways. These huge changes, especially with
it's made life in casting easier and harder in the same way.
Interesting.
It's easier because a lot of people don't really want names, don't really want as many names anymore because they don't need as much.
No, that's a good point.
So it's you can draw from the unknown actors, the unknown actors who are unknown in that pool. But it's also spread out too that you want to. I'm sort of I'm pretty anal about getting somebody who's really, really good in acting, and they're not. Most of these people sometimes aren't as talented as people who study and work a lot. So
it's fascinating. I would love to be in casting just because of the number of people you get to go through, and just the projects just sounds fun making those kinds of decisions. And wow, having fun watching people show their stuff all the time. And I think it would be fascinating. That would keep me interested my whole life. And I mean, how do you end up being a casting director and sticking with it your whole life? Basically, let me back up. Where were you born, by the way?
New Jersey.
Where were you? And
Where I am right now.
your parents are from also New
Yeah,
Jersey?
they were from New Jersey, right outside of Newark, New Jersey.
So you went to
Yeah.
school there. Did you go to like
I
acting
went.
school or any cinema
Oh
school?
God, I never wanted to be an actor. I always say that, and
Wow.
I don't have any have never had any desire to be an actor. I don't attack casting solely from that point of view. I also attack
Hmm.
casting very much from a production standpoint,
Ah.
how it works within,
Mm.
understanding schedules, understanding needs, understanding production needs, especially doing as much episodic television that I had done in the past. Um, I think it's important for a casting director to know all that stuff. The rules,
Mm.
regulations of SAG, of the unions, of what you can do and how a schedule works. You know, how many days do you need them? They can't be free that day. They have to come back that day. All that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of nuts and bolts sort of things you have to know about actors and
Mm.
casting in order to fit within the schedule. So I kind of attack it from both ends.
So most of your training was
Well,
just
I've studied film for years. I studied film
Hmm.
in high school. I went to all boys Catholic school.
oh.
Um, I was lucky enough to have an English teacher in ninth grade who started a film course. My junior, sophomore, and no, how does it go? Sophomore, junior, and
Yeah.
senior year. Sorry, I'm a little. I just lost a lot of money. Can't believe so. I'm a little
I
off my
love
beat path. And he really knew. Started film courses about film history, film technique, film philosophy, and he knew his shit. Can I curse? Can I curse in this?
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Go right
Yeah,
ahead.
he knew his shit. I mean, he really knew his shit, and it was great because there was like 5 people in the course every year. So it was a really sort of intense way of studying film, and I just love film. That's sort of my first love. So I just sort of, piggybacked off of that in college, went to Northwestern, and then from there just started working in the industry.
What was
So
Northwestern
how
like?
yeah.
I'm sorry.
Go
What was
ahead, Mark. Sorry.
Northwestern like? Sorry.
Northwestern was
I used to live in Chicago, so I had to ask.
no, Northwestern is great. Northwestern is a really great film school. The one thing I always sort of regret about Northwestern, and it's not at all a slight on the school and all that stuff, is that it wasn't very production heavy. It was more
Mm.
very film theory and all that stuff. So when I went, I don't know if it's changed since then. So, I'm a firm believer there's nothing, it's easier to learn something when you just do it, and so I really knew a lot about the film theory and stuff when I started working. And then, when I started here working in LA, my eyes just opened up to a whole different area of education and instruction. And I will say, quite frankly, too, after when I went there, my high school film teacher, I was already doing and knowing, junior, senior level stuff of film. I was really kind of bored the first 2 years. So because I had already studied it and sort of knew about it. So, but it's a beautiful school. I mean, you can't beat the area, and it's a fun school, and it's a very well-rounded school. So I encourage people.
At what point exactly? What point you were like casting, a casting director? That's what I am. That's what I'm gonna do right now. Like, I mean, full time.
Well, it's weird. I'm not one of those people, and that sort of goes into my life with sort of a
Mm.
5-year plan or a 10-year plan.
Mm.
I never have. I just sort of go by instinct. I do really live day by day. And, like I said, it was fun. So I just kept getting work and I kept moving myself up. The only thing I will say that sort of structured was, you work yourself from an intern, then to an assistant, and then to a casting associate. And my last associate job was on the pilot for Everybody Loves Raymond. And it was great. And with a wonderful casting director named Lisa Miller Katz, and we got along great. But I sort of made a decision right then and there that I was not going to be an associate anymore. I'm going to be a casting director and open my own business. So I literally turned down in the next 3 days like killer associate jobs. I think like one was like babysit or hang around with Al Pacino on The Devil's Advocate or something like that. And I was like, nope. I decided no, I can't. So that's the only kind of real forethought that I really put into it. I put some forethought into the projects I pick at certain times, but I really don't sort of I never said, okay, when I was a casting assistant, like, okay, I'm going to make a career out of this. I just kind of kept the momentum going, So I always say, I think it's really important for people in this industry, and just to be a shark and just keep moving, just keep going,
I like it.
Keep swimming, because I think any sort of stagnant time, any sort of thought, because this industry is full. I mean, you guys know, once you sort of have an idea of where it's going to go, it changes, it moves. Once
That's a
you
great
set
point.
a rule, it gets broken. So, if everybody had a manual and a book to sort of be a casting director, everybody would. So
ain't that the truth?
yeah.
So is there so have you done anything else, like a little bit of directing, producing, dabbled in anything else? You say you don't want to.
I am about what's good. This is 23. I always forget the years. I started writing. I've always written, but I sort of really kind of seriously started taking it about 6 years ago. I've sold 4 scripts, 4 projects. I've 3 were made, and I've had the pleasure of casting 2 of them, and that's sort of been going. So I've also been kind of concentrated on that. So I'm sort of really do half and half. And then I started teaching, during the whole pandemic. Everybody was shut down, and people twiddling their thumbs. I started teaching, and I found out I like that. So I have a few students that I just kind of keep going and just keep doing it. And
that's what it is, though. See, you're very, you articulate well, you're funny, you're handsome. You might want to cast yourself in something. I know.
I've been offered roles
wow.
Yeah,
because back in the day when it wasn't all tapes, I would read with the actors, because I remember one of the first casting directors I ever worked with, a super nice guy, but he was an awful fucking reader. I mean, he was the worst.
Yeah, see, you're funny just talking to.
Yeah, it was really bad. And I remember saying to myself, "Oh my God, I'm never going to be like that. I could never," because I felt bad for the actors, trying to give a performance opposite somebody who was just not doing anything. And so I started reading with the actors, and it was,
So when you write, did you do lean toward funny stuff? You seem like you're just a lot of fun.
No.
No, really?
I lean more towards dark stuff.
Oh,
But I mean,
really?
I've sold a romantic comedy, 2 romantic comedies, a sexual thriller, and a boxing drama. So I'm all over the place. But I mean, my heart would go for like horror. I mean, I'm a huge horror fanatic.
Wow.
And the ones that you've written are really good films, by the way.
I'm sorry?
The ones that you've written are really good films, by the way,
Okay.
So.
Sorry. I agree. No.
So that's what the future probably holds, right? Something in there.
I'm extra hard in the films that I write. I
was talking about, Don't Look Back and Glassjaw.
Yeah, but Don't Look Back is actually my favorite of the ones, because I just really love that movie. I mean, you should have seen the original version of that. That was like a bloody mess. I mean, it was like,
tell our viewers a little bit about it first. Tell our viewers, yes, please.
Well, Don't Look Back was originally titled The Cabin. And it was sort of a take on an old movie called the oh God, I forget the title of the movie, but I want to say The Watcher or something like that, but not the thing on Netflix. But and I mean, what happened was literally I decided to start writing. I have a writing partner, and I talked to a film producer who runs a studio. I said, I attacked it very, very strategically. I just said, so what sells for you? Like, what do you need? What sells for you? And she said, female-driven thrillers and Christmas movies sell really well overseas and whatnot. And she goes, we're looking to do some sort of indie kind of projects. And so we came up with this idea, and she bit. I didn't think she was going to bite. I was actually shocked. And she bought it right offhand off a treatment. So we got paid to write the script. And she just said, go crazy, like, just write what you want. And so I was like, okay. So everybody gets killed with an axe at the end, and like, so
wow.
dead. That was sort of the way I wanted to see it. And then she's like, well, we can't really do that. So we just changed and sort of morphed, and you go through revisions and notes and whatnot, and you just get it down to where everybody's happy. But I also was very, very conscious of the very first time that I sold anything writing wise, not to sell anything that I was sort of really attached to personally. Because I know as a writer, especially first time writer, it's, you're the low man on the totem pole. No one really gives a crap really what you think and what you do. And so how you do it. So, I didn't want to have these creative fights that were going to make me look difficult.
Smart.
I wanted to sell more. I wanted to gain some sort of
Mhm.
leverage if I ever needed to have a creative fight.
And you did all the casting for that too, right?
I'm sorry?
You did all the casting for that film too, right?
For Don't Look Back, yes. That was
Yes.
fun. That was fun. I mean, Cassidy, and God, I'm blanking on her name, Griffiths, were great, and it was fun. And I mean, I think it was one of Rowdy Piper's last roles, and I was so excited to put him in the movie. So, and he was a lot of fun. So it was a really that was a very good experience as my first one writing. So that was really good. So, I mean, I just watched that movie again, actually, and I said to myself, it's not half bad. It's
No, not at all.
Yeah.
It's really well written. Yeah.
Yeah, it's fun. So I like that one.
I'm sure you just basically beat out everybody when this person had options in front of them. Yours was the best one, and it went forward.
And listen, I know the woman that I sold to, who's a friend of mine, but she's tough. I mean, I know her; she wouldn't buy it if she didn't. I mean, it was funny because we walked into the development. We had given her 4 treatments, and it was 2 Christmas treatments and 2 of these female-driven thrillers. And we met like 2 months after I sent her the treatments, and so then she called us into a meeting. And I told my writing partner, who had sold some stuff, but never anything that had been made. And I said, this is just a jerk off meeting. It's just going to be like, she's going to just say, this is what you should do. This is what we want. It's a don't. And he goes, yeah, I know, I get it. And she literally walked in and with the treatments in hand, with her whole development team behind her. And she says, okay, I hate these 2. I kind of like this one, and I want to buy that one.
Wow. So
And
these are 4 separate projects you had to come up with for her.
Yeah, I mean, as a writer, you always come up with ideas. You're always kind of pitching, and you're always kind of saying, "Oh, I got that. I got an idea for that. Oh, you looking for that? I have that." When you really don't, you just you spitballing an idea.
Yeah.
So
very smart. Very
it's
smart.
It's a hustle.
Yeah.
So
Really.
what are the challenges that you face? As far as I don't know, if something's hard to cast, why would something be so hard to cast? You're just not finding somebody.
Well, listen, casting is. I believe that sometimes casting sort of its own living, breathing organism. It never sort of is the same. That's what I like about it. I have a very, very short attention span, and I like casting because it changes. Really, and I change how I look for an actor, or what I'm looking for in a character and an actor to fit the character, role by role, episode by episode, and when you find the most difficult challenge to casting any role is when the producers and directors don't know really what they want. When they're sort of, she needs to be this and that, and they're kind of, but she's really, really beautiful, but she doesn't in an understated way. I'm like, what does that mean? And then
I guess that would make it pretty impossible to finalize.
Yeah, and so
anything.
they're not crystallized so they're not going to accept they're not going to sign off on anybody right away. I like when things are very clear and concise. I mean, that's when I did Cold Case, which was a really great show to do. It was pretty, this is what you're looking for. We're doing our circus episodes, so you have to look for little people, or you have to look for there's no getting around that. So it's very easy. It becomes much easier because you're very much more definite what you're looking for. Those are always the challenging roles when they're looking. They don't know what they're looking for, but they're looking for everything in a character. And so that's where the challenge. But also too, you have my favorite movie I ever cast is a movie called Buddy Boy. It's brilliant. And the lead character is a stuttering, non-sleeping virgin that I always describe as a cross between Edward Scissorhands and Eraserhead. What do you look for that? And
my kind of movie.
Oh my God, you would love this movie. You really would. And it actually one actor came to mind after I don't like to think of actors as I'm reading something. I kind of like to think about it afterwards. And then afterwards, I had been a fan of an actor named Aidan Gillen for a few years before that. And I don't know if you guys watch Game of Thrones.
Oh, sure. Okay.
He's Littlefinger in Game of Thrones. And
Hmm.
I was like, I told my producer, who was a big producer, I'm like, this is the guy. I mean, this is the guy, literally. And Carrie, the producer, had gone to the Cannes Film Festival and saw him in another movie, and literally was like, that's the guy. Let's offer it to him right away. Bing, bang, boom. And I thought it was going to be a really, really tough role to cast, and it was actually really easy. So
Wow.
but you never know. You never know what
Sure.
sort of, then when I did Roswell, there was the girl at the end of this first season. And
Emily DeRaven.
we ended up Emily Raven, but I saw like 2,000 actresses for that role because
Wow.
they didn't know what they really didn't know what they wanted, and and so it was kind of and it was a very long process. I mean, we started.
I was going to say, how long did 2000 take?
We started that process like, I want to say like the beginning of January, and we were picked up for 24 episodes that season, so we were ending like the beginning of May. So we started that in like January.
What about the
it
cast?
It wasn't like an
cast?
intense search right at the beginning, but it was, you start looking.
What about for the main cast? Was it really hard to cast?
I didn't do the pilot. I did episode 1 afterwards.
Oh, all right.
And that was a fluke. I mean, that was my first that was one of my first jobs, actually. It was just, and it was, I got that not because of, any sort of casting talent or anything like that. I mean, I had a casting partner at the time. We were very, very new to the scene. We got sent on the meeting by somebody, the executive at 20th Century Fox Productions. And it was a really, really hot job to get at the time because it was a great pilot. It was picked up for 24 episodes right off the bat, which is kind of unheard of a lot of times, had a full season. And Jason Katims, the showrunner, was really hot at the time. He had come off, I think, My So-Called Life after this, and one of the nicest people you ever want to meet in your entire life. And I was friends with an actor named Devin Gummersall, and I put together a script reading for him. And that was like a week before he went to this meeting. And I remember this specifically, the head of casting says, I'm sending you on this job, but you're not going to get it. Wow. You're just too new. You're not going to get it. They're meeting everybody, but you're not going to. I'm my Italian heritage from New Jersey comes out. I'm like, then why the hell are we going on this meeting? What's the point? I don't care. And she, well, it's good practice and and so we went, and I walked into the 20th Century Fox and Jason's office, and I realized he was one of the people who was at the script reading the prior week. And I literally, the first thing I said to him was like, oh my God, you're the guy that was at Devin's reading. I said, why did you sit in the corner? You didn't talk to anybody. What was going on? He goes, wait, did you put that reading together? I'm like, yeah. Oh, he has some really nice actors. Like, yeah. And we just really started talking about other things than the people we knew together. We hardly even talked about the show or the pilot. And then finally we were leaving. He says, well, you should ask, what did you think of the pilot? I said, oh, it's really, really good. He goes, I said, yeah, I kind of get what you're trying to do, teenage alienation. They're actually aliens, blah, blah, blah. And then he said, so what's your overall philosophy of casting the show? I'm like, well, and I hate questions like that because it's so a lot of times
anything.
They could be anything. They're kind of bullshit, it's like, okay. And not that the Jason was, but he was, I think he felt the need to actually do something and talk about something. And I said, well, the only thing I would do, and I'm making this off the top of my head. I didn't even think about it. That every single character you cast from one-liners down to guest stars, you should always have something off about them. You always think, are they aliens as well? Could they be potentially aliens? That kind of thing is, oh, cool. And we left, and literally the executive called up 20 minutes later. We're in the car. She goes, well, I don't know how you did it. She was mad that we got the job. I think she was pissed that we got the job. And she was like, but you got the job, and da-da-da-da. And so that kind of really set us off, and myself in the TV game.
Wow.
Nice.
That.
Congrats. Wow.
That is definitely a high point.
It was a fun show to do. The people were so nice. That was another great experience. That was 3 seasons, 2 on the WB and then 1 on at UPN, which is now.
And they brought it back because the fans were sent in Tabasco sauce. Do you remember that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Right. That was the Tabasco sauce. They would come back. Yeah. I don't know how I feel about the new version. I just simply because, I love Janine, the lead girl. I've hired her before. She's great. And I just, I don't know. It's, I felt like they kind of got off the theme of the actual real other show. With the
I
whole,
heard Mahendra say on she was on an Instagram live and she was like, I think it's a little bit too soon to be doing that. A reboot.
yeah, I don't know. It's too soon. I mean, yeah, I mean, I could see that, and I just, I don't think it really captured the show, the original reason why the original show really.
No, the original show has such a following still
Yeah.
to this day.
And Cherie and Jason had such chemistry together that it was, I mean, you just wanted to watch.
Oh, by far. Yeah. I mean, the only downfall is that Brian wasn't casted as one of the Evans. His last name is Evans, so.
Oh, there you
I
go.
should be. Yeah.
I'm really happy with that show. I mean, I remember getting a great episode with Michael Pena did a guest spot, and Terry O'Quinn did a guest spot. I mean, I was really happy with that show in terms of the cast. I liked it.
Yeah, John Doe was on there too.
John Doe was on. He had to recur. He was their father.
Yeah.
It still has an amazing following to this day.
Well, it's on Hulu. It's on multiple
Yeah.
platforms.
No, yeah. It's a very good show. So that was fun.
So you've been in since it's Christmas and also you've been involved with like 10 different
all the Christmas movies I cast. Are you gonna go that? You're gonna go
amazing. Okay, why don't you start with a Nashville country? I have family in Nashville, so tell me about that. A Nashville country Christmas.
Well, that was brought to me by wonderful, wonderful producers, Stephanie Slack and Margaret Huddleston, who I've worked with previously before, and they had a deal with Paramount, and I think Paramount has done just two Paramount Network has done like two Christmas movies. I'm not sure that I did one for them called Dash in December during the height of the pandemic in 2020, which is one of the only few things to actually go and shoot in during that year. And so they do another big Christmas movie, and they said we're doing a movie, and Tanya Tucker is already set to, she's going to do the lead. They have a deal with her over there, and they were
wow
to do that, and that was great because it's Tanya Tucker. I mean,
seriously,
it's a name that I heard my entire life, and so that was fun. That was another great experience. One of the biggest decisions I make now in taking projects is if the people are nice. If I like the people,
That's
I don't
cool.
need to
I like
do. I don't need to be working with.
Who's paying for these movies anyway?
Who's paying to make them?
Yeah.
Well, that was Paramount. That was Viacom Paramount. That was all their money. And they put it together. I guess they aired it already on the Paramount Network last the 12th. I think it encores on Country Music Channel and some their other platforms, and it'll
Nice.
service. Yeah, I mean it's studio money, really.
What other experience did you have with the other 9 Christmas movies or whatever?
They're
what how did you get into that repeat? How did you get into that repeat pattern, by the way?
That's all that's being made.
Wow.
Yeah, he's smart.
No,
That's a big thing of what's being made.
Wow.
And because they repeat really well. And they last really, really well, and I've passed on a lot, but I don't, and I mainly the ones I do for the same producers because I like them and it's easy, and there's not, I mean, quite frankly, there's not a lot of thought that goes into casting. I mean, it's not that difficult because of the characters, there's nothing really different about the characters, and from one movie to the next. I mean, it's the attractive guy and it's an attractive female, and you put them together.
Now that you mention that, yeah.
Fascinating.
You don't need to find the correct. So they sell really well, and I'm practical. I got to pay my rent. I got to, so I'll go where the money is, dude. So, and it's they've. I don't think I've ever had a bad experience with a Christmas movie. I had very few bad experiences in my career. I've had a few, but not a lot less than looking over my resume and all things that I've done. It's a very small percentage. So,
what would you say your highlights are? I mean, you've been talking about your highlights for the last 15 minutes, but what would you like to share with our viewers? Say like you're really proud of. and it doesn't have to be like big budgets, just
no,
maybe
no, and
dear to you.
it probably wouldn't be either. I mean, film wise, like I said, I think it's a movie called Buddy Boy. I mean, that early 2000 period, I had a really great run with indie movies. It was Buddy Boy, the movie I mentioned too, Everything Put Together. Another movie I cast called Love and Sex with Jon Favreau and Famke Janssen. I just love that movie. Another great, it was a big hit, was a movie called Latter Days, and that was really, really great. And then
and this had your writing involved in it.
No.
This is all casting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Casting.
Okay.
And then TV wise, obviously Roswell. I mean, Cold Case was, still the people to this day come up to me and say that was the most difficult TV show and television show to ever cast, just because of the nature of the show. And that was really, really great. That was a lot of work, but it was also a lot of fun because it was so creatively challenging. So I love doing that.
It seems to me it's like you get a lot of pre-directing into them before they get even to the director and stuff like that. I mean,
well, I did take, I should say I did, because of the way technology is. I see everything on self-tape, so it's sort of hard. But when I was reading people in the room, I really took the director part of casting director very seriously.
That's kind of what I'm getting out of all of this, is you kind of have to first find the person and then make them into the character.
Well, not so much make him into the character. You're absolutely right, but also make him into the character that my producer, my director wants.
Oh, that's a good point.
Because they have a vision of what they want. And I always tell actors, you're not going to
literally shape them. Yeah.
Yeah. You're not going to get this job unless you give them what they want. You can show them new things, but the essence, you have to give them what they want. I mean, just on a very small scale level example of this is, when I was doing Cold Case, which took place in Philadelphia, a lot of actors would come in and said, okay, do you want me to do a Philly accent? I'm like, no. So
you might find someone with the look, but they're just not sharing your vision. And
yeah. I mean, listen, yes, we all strive to make the best actor get the role, but that doesn't happen all the time. The best actor who's right for the role gets it.
That's fascinating. That is fascinating.
And being right is subjective, but however, the people who created it, the writers, producers, me, all included, we guide that. It's what we want. Is it fair?
Cool.
Yeah, because we're doing the show.
Has there ever been any situations where production wants this actor, but you really feel that this one's better for the role?
Oh my God, it happens all the time. That happens all the time. I mean, I'm a fighter.
Nice.
I did a movie again, early 2000s. That was a great period for me. I got to note that. I did a movie called The Young Unknowns, which was sort of a take on Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, set among Beverly Hills brats and rich kids. And we were looking for an Asian woman who was a commercial coordinator, production coordinator, and she was kind of cold. And it was a really great role. And I'll just remember Lucy Liu came in like 3 times. She really wanted to do this movie. And my director, God bless her, just wasn't seeing it. And I'm like, Katie, this is it. Like, this is it. And I kept fighting her on that. And then finally she passed. She said, no, I really don't want that. I'm like, okay. So we had to let her, I had to put that aside. But literally, when the movie ended production, Lucy went on to go do Ally McBeal, which made her really famous. And
ouch.
Yeah, and
she's great. She's amazing.
And to Katie's credit, she was like, "Oh my God, you were so right. I could not believe I passed on her." And And I had to fight or sort of really convince my executive producer in Cold Case about Melissa Leo being right for a role. And my executive producer, writer, who's brilliant, she's wonderful, but she was very protective of this storyline and this character in particular, I think. And Melissa Leo had read and wanted to do and would do for the money. And we were trying to get her to read, but she wouldn't read because, she's Melissa Leo, for God's sakes. And she's like, I don't know. And she was hemming and hawing. I mean, I really like her, but she really right, blah, blah, blah. And I finally said, no one's coming in. So I'm not doing anything. So you have to pick her. There's not going to be anybody to do the role. So, here's your choice. No one doing the role or Melissa Leo kind of thing. And she finally decided 2 days afterwards. So it was fun. That happens all the time. Yeah, no, it was great. And she did a great job. It was a great episode. And and but that happens all the time, disagreements all the time. And depending upon how much I like the project and depending on how much I like the producers and whatnot, will sort of determine how much I fight. Like I sort of try to take my personal agenda out of it. Like, oh, I really just personally like that actor and they should be it. I just kind of like really make sure that the actors I feel is like really right for the project and really elevate it before I go in for the full on battle. So
yeah. What about somebody like Billy Miller in Bad Blood? He's
Billy,
a great actor.
Well, Billy I also hired on a TV show I did called Ringer from Sarah Michelle Gellar. I love Billy. Billy's great. I've been a fan. I've been a fan of Billy's for a while. I mean, listen, I watch soaps. I always have, and I was a fan of his when he was on All My Children in New York.
Wow.
And Billy's great. Oh my God, Bad Blood! I forgot about that movie. I like that movie. That's another good movie.
You're just proud of everything that you've done. That's what's so great about a guest
you just
like
happen
you.
to bring up. I mean, listen, you brought up Convict 762. I mean,
I had to.
I can't even remember who's in that movie. Quite frankly, I got to be honest. But Bad Blood.
You have a lot of accomplishments and something that you're just forgotten about. A few of them, I think, is yeah.
But Billy, Billy, I think is one of those. I think he's an actor that a lot of people don't realize how good he is.
Sure.
And I wish they did. But I'm friendly with Billy as well. So he's a really, really nice guy and a good actor.
Yeah. Excellent.
Yeah. You've done so much. Well, what are your goals right now? I mean, that's cool. Yeah.
I don't have.
I wanted you to say that.
I can't even decide what I'm having for dinner tomorrow or for breakfast tomorrow. I don't know what the future is going to hold. I don't know.
I like
Again, I think it just goes along with how I do things. I don't plan on that kind of stuff because I kind of want to keep myself. Listen, has it cost me jobs maybe in the past, not being as aggressive? Sure. But has it made me happy? Yeah, absolutely. So, it's a trade-off. So I never wanted to be that, aggressive casting person where I have to do every single job and I have to, make sure that, my projects are the best. I can give a crap about that stuff. Quite frankly, I just do what I want to do and I do what I like and I just go from there. Not to get philosophical about this, but I think it's a great way to live your life no matter what you do.
That is a great philosophy. It sounds like you've had a great career and you've interacted with some very famous people. And I would say
even Will Ferrell, right?
I met Will once.
Okay.
He was already set. That was another fun. I forgot and I didn't forget about that, but that was really, really fun because my friend who actually bought the cabinet, Don't Look Back, was the executive of that, and she said we're doing this a year before it was actually started production. I mean, that was sort of and she just said Will loves Lifetime movies. He just loves them. And
I can see that.
We were talking about that, and we're like, it had to be something like he just liked to do it or something. Yeah,
and that was like, well, cool. So I kind of knew about it, but there was no script. When even when I was casting it, there was no full script. We had to use a dummy script, and we couldn't tell anybody what was happening.
Wow!
Because he didn't want anybody to know, and so we would send the script out, and it was really not a good. It was like another script from the company that was just not good. So people would pass, and I'm like, and the people I like, tell them not to pass. Tell them not to. I'm telling you, just trust me, don't pass. And some listened, some didn't. And that was really good. And then we went to the debate. I think we were thinking about, after Kristen said she'll do it, it was the idea of like, well, do you then stunt the whole thing about, do you get Melissa McCarthy to do this other role because, everybody would do it because of them. And he was like, no, he didn't want that. And I'm glad he decided not to because that's the whole point. Like, then you start making fun of the genre. I want to slip into the genre. And that's sort of the joke. I mean, his idea, quite frankly, and he said this, I think, on a panel a couple of years ago. And the panel, he said it's like one of his favorite projects he's ever done. It's just sort of like he wanted people to come home drunk like on a Saturday night and like flip on the TV and go like, "What?" Huh? Like that, that kind of thing. And really, a lot of people do. I mean, even the agents. Once I was able to tell the agents when I hired their clients what was happening. I mean, I literally every agent was like, "Wait, are you kidding me? Seriously?" I'm like, "Yeah." I'm totally serious. And they're like, I even hired an actress from the same agency, and the other agent didn't know that this was happening.
Wow.
And I literally told him, I said, I can't tell you anything about the project, but you need to go down to Will Ferrell's agent. He's like, I don't even know him. I'm like, go down and just talk to him and you'll get all the details. He's like, what? Why? I'm just go down and talk to him. I can't say anything. And then he called me back. He was like, is this really for real? I'm like, yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, that was great. Wow. And then there was the whole controversy when it was leaked before. I mean, somewhere apparently, the way here the story goes, and I hope I don't get sued for this, but well, whatever. It was leaked because he didn't want to do that much publicity with it until like 2 weeks before. Like he wanted to go really short, and I get why he wanted to do that, but he left his agency and someone leaked it, but they leaked it on April Fool's Day.
Oh goodness!
Like a full 3 or 4 months before it was set to air, and so nobody believed it. And then I guess he started playing with the press, saying yeah, no, that's not true. It's not gonna air. We're not doing. We shot it, but we're not gonna air it. But
is it me, or does that sound like something he would do?
Seriously,
no. That whole part, the leaking of it was not something I know. I'm pretty sure. I don't know for sure.
So someone else leaked it.
Somebody had leaked it because he left. The agent left. I remember who was upset about it. I don't know. I don't know anybody. Who did,
so they weren't trying to do a nice thing. Okay.
Okay.
But
but I think it all worked out actually for the benefit of the movie itself. So, yeah, that was fun. That was good. I was happy too because I put my best friend as an actor in the movie as well. Actor named Eric Palladino, and he played the sheriff, and so that was fun. I only went down. Did I go down to the set? I think I went down to the set once. I'm not a big set person, so.
Oh man, that's awesome! You have so many great stories.
For sure.
I've been doing it a long time.
Now, one thing I didn't ask is
that may take too long.
Yeah, what goes into you getting to a casting director getting hired by films and TV shows?
Again, it is a crapshoot. It's relationships, obviously. But it's also doing good work, hopefully that people see and want to do and want to, oh, let's hire that guy. He did the great job with that kind of thing. But a lot of it comes from people that I've known that worked before that sort of just kind of give me projects. I do have to meet on projects, everybody does at some point, but and now I'm depending upon the projects, I'm just, if you want me to do it, offer it to me. I don't need to meet on this movie. I've done a million Christmas movies. I'm not meeting on a Christmas movie. But I remember one time I got called by Paramount TV to do a half-hour pilot, which I was with my casting partner at the time, and we'd never done a lot of half-hour sitcoms, and we've done a ton of procedurals, and it was out of the blue, and it was an offer. It was not even, and I don't know if anybody's thinking about pilots, but that's there. It says, oh, so and so, I even forgot his name now, but so and so wants to hire you for this pilot, and I was like, oh, okay. And I'm saying to myself, I have no idea who that person is. But I didn't want to tell Paramount that until I closed the deal because I'm not stupid. And so we closed the deal and I said, okay, so I got to tell you, who is this person? I have no idea who he is. And they were like, well, he sure knows who you are because he was pretty adamant about hiring you. And so I was like, okay. So I called the guy up and we met, for coffee beforehand. And I saw him and I still didn't recognize who he was. and I'm pretty blunt, and I said, all right, dude, I gotta tell you, I don't know who you are. I have no idea. So you gotta refresh me. Because don't you remember? It turned out he was one of the producer's assistant on Roswell. Oh. And so when I would go over for sessions, I would sort of sometimes talk to him and say, oh, how you doing? How's your day? Like that, so you're always very nice to me. And it was sort of a tough writer's room. It was a tough, his job was sort of tough. And I always said to myself, if I ever get a project, I'm going to hire you as a casting director. I was like, wow, okay, great. And it also is a testament to treat people nicely, or just because it just helps you getting jobs, on a very practical level. So and I was like, well, thank God I was nice, because I can be a real prick sometimes. So that's how then I got that job out of the blue. Like, and that happens. The agents recommend me, so
That's how it is. You're just fun to talk to, easy to work with.
I try,
Yeah.
it's life's too short for crappy people.
You're good at it too.
Really
like that. I
You gotta
really
deal
do.
with a lot of personalities too. So
You
I'm
do,
sure.
but it's not that. I mean, it's not that bad. I mean, I like tough people. I mean, I really do. I kind of like that sort of energy. I know how to deal with it really well, as long as it's sort of tough in a guided, creative way. I don't care. Like, that doesn't bother me. It's when you're wacky and crazy and you're irrational for no reason at all. That drives me crazy. That really just drives me crazy. And but by the way, and I don't really put up with that shit. I mean, I really don't. I just, I'll just say, dude, I'm shutting down. So if you want to keep going at this, I remember I've worked with Joel Silver 3 times, and I like Joel. I think Joel's a great, but Joel's personality, and he's a tough guy, and he's a really, really tough guy. And there was one time and we had a great working relationship, and I mean, I think he liked me. I don't really know, but I think he did. And there was something, I won't even go into the details of the story, but he dressed me down one morning. And Joel dresses people down. It's like, all my uncles from down north, they're fucking throwing F-bombs this way, that bombs that way, yelling, screaming. And that's like that was my dinner table growing up. So I was like, okay, whatever. But I put him on speaker and I called my associate, and then I muted him. I'm like, oh my God, I'm getting dressed down by Joel Silver. I've fucking arrived in Hollywood. I finally made it. Like, this is, because he's done this to a million people. I love it. I love it. I love it. But then at the end of the dressing down, and I just said, Joel, you're wrong. You're totally wrong. What you're thinking of how it went down is totally wrong. So what do you want me to tell you?
I love your perspective on that whole deal.
Yeah, you want to fire me? Go ahead. I don't care. Do I really need to be doing the vampire show for CBS? I mean, really?
And that's why they get good work out of you, because you
Right?
don't give a
I don't
shit.
give a shit. I don't.
No,
No,
not
I
at
do
all.
don't
I
give a
love
shit
that
about
about you.
I don't give a shit about stupid stuff.
That's great.
Yeah.
That is great. Well, it's been great just hearing about your adventures and learning about you. Mark, you have any more questions?
No, Michael, this is just an honor. I mean, we can tell that you're, such
Very
a
nice.
great casting director, writer. Make sure to, write some more films and such. And with you,
Sometimes being a writer is as hard as being as an actor. Actually, it's
that's a
harder.
good point. Yeah.
Keep at that horror thing. I mean, right? You're gonna
I
get
have
that
two. I
horror
have
thing
two.
done.
I have 2 horror scripts ready to go. So if anybody's got some money out there, let's do it. So
There you go. Well, with the way that
Never know.
streaming platforms
Never
and
know.
everything is going, you're going to be in the future.
Oh yeah, no, I'm fine. It's. I don't know. I don't know. I'll take where it takes me. See what. I mean, just real quickly. I know you guys need to get off, but
no, we're fine. Yeah.
I mean, I think what's happening now with the whole plethora of streaming services and the glut of content is that a lot of it is not economically productive, so to speak, for casting people. So, I've been this long. This is like, and I require a certain amount of money, quite frankly. And so I'm not gonna,
okay, yeah.
And then throwing like the COVID rules on top of stuff, it's sort of added an extra expense to a lot of these budgets, and so they scrimp in a lot of other places in order to make that up. And casting, unfortunately, again, is one of those things everybody thinks they can do, and then they don't realize how technically involved it is and how much goes into it, once they do it.
Yeah,
I'm sure you would adapt more to directing than vice versa.
Probably. Yes, but no one's offered me anything directing yet. So
I mean, casting. I mean, this is an experience-driven thing. You can't really go to college for that. I mean,
cause for that, right? And it's fun. And I mean, I'm shocked sometimes at the level of stories I've heard from other people who have been directing stuff about some of the casting people. And how they cast their projects. And I learn from great people and very detailed orientated people, and just it's only 5 minutes of your time. Meet that person, that, and so it just adds you a wealth of just knowing about people and actors. I think that's sort of, you can't study that. You just have to sort of do it.
It doesn't hurt that you're appreciative and fun and smart, and stuff like that,
Oh my God, you guys need to build up my ego like every day.
Well, we want this show to do some good, so we're gonna push this all over the place, right?
And
yeah, great.
One thing I wanted to touch upon is because when I took some acting classes I was from Michigan. I took some acting classes, and you're gonna laugh at this being a casting director. So I'm doing the final scene, it was like, is this seat taken or whatever. So I'm doing the final scene with my partner, and I'm supposed to pick her up at on a table. It was like hitting on her and such. And the instructor says, the professor goes, I would have liked to seen a lot more emotion out of you, Mark. And then one of the classmates from across the room goes, excuse me, I was sitting on this side of the room, and there was plenty of emotion from Mark. I was like, and then there was another thing. I auditioned for this play. It was a musical, and it's so funny. I go and audition. I'm singing this Lou Gramm song, Just Between You and Me. And
I love Lou Gramm.
Yeah, they're like, you did such a great job. And then they're like, we want you to play the deaf person, and you need to learn sign language right away. And I was working like 3 jobs,
learn sign language right away. I like
doing this, and then I'm like, he's like, you're casted, but we want you to be. I'm like, I sing Lou Gramm beautifully. You cast me based upon my singing, and then you asked me to be the deaf person, and they're like, why can't you be in the play anymore? I'm like, well, I'm working 3 jobs. I'm taking college.
Well, that sounds like a project that didn't have a lot of money in terms. You know what I'm saying? Like,
no. I mean, this is Michigan. It's not LA. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and to say learn sign language right away. That's okay.
Yeah, let me just
listen. I've cast. I mean, we did a whole episode around. I cast a couple of deaf people. I cast a whole episode around deaf people. So, and it's a whole. There's a difference between American Sign Language and British Sign Language, and it's a difference, and you have to be really, really, you have to be really, really careful and creative about that stuff. It's not something you can just fake.
No,
because people know. So you want to be as, and I kind of hate this word when it comes to casting, but you want to be as authentic as possible, really. So,
yeah,
I'm
still learning about all this. Listening to you guys, it's crazy.
This was a thrill, Michael. This really was. We're honored.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, come back soon. Anything you want to promote, you let us know. We'll do a show. Okay.
Sure.
We always got a half hour to hour
casting director workshops. Promote those before you leave.
Oh yeah, if anybody's interested, follow me on Instagram and Michael Testa casting Instagram, or my other one. God, what's my other one? I forget the other one, but you'll see it. But Michael Testa casting Instagram, and I've been doing online one-on-one self-tape sort of classes. I call them exercises, because it's sort of the way I devise it, sort of the closest to being in the room as possible. Because I use self-tapes and then FaceTime calls instead of Zoom, so I get a sort of a personal connection with the actors, and I think that's sort of really, really important. Is I think one thing that we sort of lost with the whole self-tape thing, and they're they're very reasonable actually, and I just do them for fun. So if anybody wants to come aboard and have some fun, just contact me there. I can send you details from there.
Nice, and
that is very cool.
In closing, we just want to ask you, what did you think of coming on the Mark 2.0 podcast? What were your thoughts?
I mean, honestly, I didn't know anything about it, so I had no preconditions about it. I thought it was great. I mean, I'm all for this kind of stuff because I think it's the way that we kind of keep the community together, and we keep creative people sort of together without it being formal. I don't like the formality of some of this bullshit that sort of goes on in the entertainment industry. I just sort of, I feel like we're all in this together, and I've found by doing podcasts as a way to sort of keep it all kind of together because people listen to it, and I've gotten some good feedback from some of the previous things. So when you emailed me and let me know that you would like me on the podcast, I was like, I was all for it, and then I saw some of the people you had on previously, and I liked some of the people, so I figured you guys were legit. It wasn't going to be like some underground
yeah, we're nice guys.
Yeah.
So perfect answer, Michael.
I
appreciate it.
I wasn't worried about
the
that.
$1 million answer. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you
and
so
it's
much.
fun to do. So
yeah.
Well, we appreciate you coming on so much, everybody. Don't forget to smack that bell and subscribe button. And Michael, you come back whenever you want, and let us know. We'll have your information below. Everybody, hit him up on Instagram. He's got cool stuff going on. Thank you again.
I appreciate it, guys.
If you enjoyed this podcast episode, click on this playlist to watch even more. And as always, thank you so much for watching.